Okay. Jaden, nice to see you again.
Thank you, Owen.
How's your week been?
Oh, mate, pretty stressful to be honest.
Pretty special?
Yeah,
What's been special?
bloody house, just trying to get this apartment sold. It's just a nightmare, as you know. So it's just the Harcourt's agent was talking on the phone again. He's saying this and this and that.
Right.
Nothing's really changing, so it's just a bit frustrating. But
yeah, I can imagine.
That's kind of why I wanted you to come in and obviously see what Bailey's can do differently, and if obviously you can provide any sort of solutions to my problem.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll touch base on that today.
Yes.
So yeah, I came through earlier this week, and you let me have a quick look around.
Cool.
So I put together some stuff. Obviously, it's going to tick off sort of the main questions you probably asked. So how much I think your property's worth. I know Harcourt's appraised it, and you've got an idea of what they think it's worth.
Yeah, they think it's worth a lot.
Yeah, so I'll touch base on what I think the property's worth in terms of how I see it and what recent sales I've had within the building, how I want to sell your home, when I'm going to do it, and ultimately how much that's all going to cost you.
Cool, okay.
So to cover this off, it should take about 45 minutes. Does that work for you?
It does.
Yeah?
Yes, that's
fine.
fine. I've got about an hour free, so that's
cool.
right.
Fantastic. Now I know I asked you this on Monday, sort of how you found the Harcourt's experience, but in terms of real estate in general, in your past buying and selling, talk to me how they.
Well, I mean, as you're probably aware, I bought this one off the plans back in 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was pretty straightforward, I think, because it was off the plan and kind of just, it wasn't the first time doing it, but we found it to be quite simple. Previously to that, we did actually have a place down in Devonport we sold.
Right.
We sold that obviously just before.
Yes.
We actually sold it after we moved in. I don't know. We sold it anyway.
Right.
And that actually went quite well. We were on with Ray White. And that went reasonably well. We were on the market for about, I think, 3-week campaign and an auction, and it sold.
Fantastic.
And I mean, given the fact, I think back then the market obviously was a bit different.
Yeah.
But we had a good result. We sold, and then obviously we bought this apartment and wanted to sort of just go a little bit sort of on the more easy care living with lock and leave style.
No,
but that process went really well with the railway agent at that time. But he never really kept in touch with me, and I don't really have his number anymore. So yeah,
that's a shame.
It was a bit annoying. Yeah.
Cool. Well, with that said, the reason I asked that, I don't want to spend the next sort of 45 minutes to an hour of our time raving and rambling about a method of sale or a marketing technique you might have strong objections towards.
Okay.
But now we've cleared that up, we'll get started.
Yeah, sure.
So this is what I want to work through with you today. I'm going to leave a hard copy with you.
Yes.
For your reference and perusal later on, should you feel that way inclined. So it starts off with just a little introduction about myself. Some of the core values I have, how I like to sort of, bit of background, just all that stuff, should you feel that way inclined. So a little bit more about myself.
Well, I mean, what's going to make you, I mean, obviously as Harcourt's agent, he came in and he said, oh, mate, I'm the best out here, I'm going to get this place sold. And he has
Of course. Yeah.
So I mean, you tell me, why are you different? What are you going to do?
Well, I'd like to bring a fresh approach to real estate.
Right.
I got slightly different marketing methods. I'll touch on those later.
Okay.
On how I think would be the correct way to market your apartment.
Yes.
To sort of tackle all the different buyer markets. Because Bailey's has quite a different approach and different way of how they attract the different buyers and where they come from. So we have the methods and campaigns in place to sort of tap into those appropriate marketplaces.
Okay.
But this page is more not about Bailey's, more about myself. And my
because you're the one who's going to be doing it, right?
Yes.
I'm curious about. What do you bring to the table?
Right. So in terms of myself, I was brought up in a family business.
Yes.
So I understand. I like to think I understand hard work. I've been surrounded by sort of my parents, both hardworking individuals. So I understand hard graft, and I've got the communication skills, and I know what it takes to sort of make things successful. So in my efforts, I carry that through to our transaction of your apartment, and you have sort of top market communication, and sort of just the professionalism will be carried right through and throughout the whole campaign.
Okay.
Fantastic. So we go into an overview of your apartment. Now, it's a beautiful apartment. I think when I came through earlier this week, the thing that set the tone for me was just the quality. Just resonates throughout the entire space. But I mean, tell me, since the 2015 when you lived there, what have you liked the most? I mean, I know your wife's not a big fan, the reason you're moving, but has there been stuff you've liked?
Well, she's not here, we can talk about her. So I don't want to leave, she's the one who dragged me through.
Yeah, no, we talked about that.
I mean, shit, I love having the bar so close, but it is what it is. Honestly, I love the fact that this building has won awards.
Yes.
I mean, I tell all my friends and all, I live in a building that's won awards, and I feel proud about that. That Sentinel, they think they've got something on us, but I think we've got the better building here. I'm really happy here. But I mean, ever since we saw the plans and stuff, really like the new sort of modern aspect to it. Obviously the nice new bathrooms and the kitchens and the good deck and everything. I just like the apartment living, you know. Always really had a taste for it, and haven't done it for a long time. So ever since we sold at Devonport, I really want to get into an apartment.
Right.
So I think we're lining up a new apartment moving forward.
Cool.
But obviously this time Jan will be choosing the apartment. So
Right. She's happy, right? Regardless, she wants a bit of space. Stuff.
But we can organise something which is, you know, catered to both of us. Because I want obviously lock and leave, and she wants a bit of garden. But
it's all about compromise. That's all that is.
If not, you know, get our own place and figure it out.
So I mean, like you said, you got there's 2 awards for the workmanship, and I think you can instantly see that the moment you walk through the door, and I think that's really going to appeal to the buyers who get out there.
So why do you think then, with the buyers that have come through already, how come they haven't sort of resonated with that?
I don't think I'm really in a position to answer that. I didn't meet the buyers personally. I didn't sort of see their body language throughout the property, and I didn't call them to make the feedback. So I would love to tell you why they didn't make an offer.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
But I would have to sort of get my own sort of personal touch on that.
Yeah, of course,
But
I sort of just might have an opinion on it.
No, I think from what I came through, when I came through on Monday, it still looks show home new. You've maintained it really well.
That's Jan.
Yeah, so she's done an amazing job, so hats off to her. And I think it's just the little things, like you've got those high-end appliances, the quality finishes in the kitchen and the bathrooms. And even down to you've got the side-by-side car parks as well.
Rather than tandem.
And it's the little things, especially in apartments, that go a long way. And sort of difference to sort of make them choose yours over maybe another apartment.
Cool. Okay.
So, a bit of legal stuff here. You've got your CV of 145.
Yes.
I know we sort of talked briefly on price, but sort of since then, have you sort of thought about that figure anymore?
Well, I mean, look, like, obviously, you know, we paid, 1.3 for it off the plans.
Yes.
And I mean, like, that was in 2015. It's only been, like, you know, 3 years or something. And in hindsight, it's kind of like, you know, up, you know, around, at least above that would be sort of, you know, comfortable.
That's acceptable.
I think, you know, we'll make a little bit of profit on it.
Of course.
You know, the time and being and all that, you know. But, I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things, you know, I'm not really too sure what it's really worth.
Right.
Obviously, Harcourt's agent was something 1.6. And, I think you mentioned to me briefly around the 1.5 mark.
Yeah. So,
which I mean, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sort of just obviously just be good to get something through, I think.
Yeah. So I've got an appraisal. Would you feel more comfortable if we touch base on that now, or do you want me to carry on and sort of do it a bit later?
Actually, let's do that
touch
now.
Base on it now?
Yeah,
cool.
Right. That'd be good actually.
So my map that I sent out to you earlier, this is how we've got to know each other. That sort of touched on the square metre rates and all the apartments around the North Shore. So I'm not sure if you did any calculations for yourself on that square metre rate.
I looked at it briefly.
So I'm sure you know the square metre rate on the map was around $11,000 a square metre for your apartment, and you're at 142 square metres. So if you do some maths on that, the map says it's worth 1.6. However, I've got here the sales for your 585 Offset Bay. So if we focus on the first floor apartments, which is the same as yours, we've got all the sales here and the square metre rates. So if you sort of break this down and do some maths, so we take the sale price divided by the square metre rate, that gives you, divided by the floor area, that gives you the square metre rate. So this sort of, the first floor, they sort of equivalent to about $10,000 a square metre. So if we apply that to your floor area, you're looking sort of around the $1.5 million mark. Yeah.
Because this one here, like you guys sold at 1.565.
Yep. 142. That's the same floor area as yours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you'll notice.
How come that one sold for less when that one's bigger?
I think it's all about it's what comes with the building. So you know you're on the back side of the building, so you don't have the ocean views.
Right.
You don't. So the price, the sort of fluctuation in the pricing in the floor area is quite similar.
But the view.
You pay for the view.
No, that makes sense.
So
well, view's always worth more.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So unfortunately, in our case, we don't have the view on our side, but that's not in any way neglecting towards your property. But another thing to outline here is.
Well, I mean, looking at that, you wouldn't expect 1.6.
No, that's what I was about to say. You sort of reflect these prices in terms of where they sit in CV. They're a lot closer in terms of the ratio between the gap, which is hence why I sort of appraise your property sort of between the 1.45 to 1.55 million mark rather than that 1.6.
Okay.
Because I said this to you on Monday, it's not about the promise of a price, it's the promise of a process, which is going to get you that price for your property.
Yeah, he made a lot of promises, that guy.
The Harcourt's agent?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel about that appraisal I've just given you?
Well, I mean, with that range, yeah. I mean, I think that's sort of where me and Jan were sort of thinking anyway. Like, I mean, we were kind of, when we were told 1.6, we were kind of like, oh wow.
Yeah.
We thought that was quite a good amount because we're obviously we've only sold sort of obviously Devonport a while ago, and we're kind of realistic to sort of see where things, and we kind of get a bit of an eye on the market. But I mean, yeah, looking at those other sales in the building and kind of where they've sold at, it kind of wouldn't make sense for us to be selling at 1.6. I mean, give me 1.6.
Yeah.
Shit, give me 1.8 if you can.
Yeah.
But that's I mean, doesn't really seem realistic.
Yeah. And I mean,
being on the market for so long now, it's kind of one of those things.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's not what you think your property's worth or what I think your property's worth. It's what the market thinks your property's worth, and what that eventual purchaser is willing to pay to own your apartment. Cool. So moving forward, a little bit more information about your market. So we just touched on some of the more recent apartment sales. So you've got the Beach Road ones here within the complex, and you've got some other ones. So this is the Sentinel, Northcroft Street. But the reason I included these, you notice, is there's quite a variation in price. Is it just shows you that there are apartments are selling for all kinds of price ranges. So there are buyers out there with money wanting to put it into apartments. So I don't want you to think that maybe the buyers aren't out there with money looking for apartments around that sort of $1.5 million mark. So it just shows you that people are out there with money to spend. So to put some numbers against it, we've had just over 1,100 sales in the last 3 months.
What Bailey says?
No, so these are that's general sales across the whole of the North Shore.
Wow, that's a lot of sales.
So yeah, but I understand that number probably doesn't mean much to you. So what I've actually done is I've done a little bit more research on the East Coast base. So you look at the number of sales there, so it's sort of around that 300 mark for the last 3 months.
Right.
Again, this is sort of all agencies, not just Bailey's.
Cool. So definitely activity going on.
Yeah. So the marketplace, especially on the North Shore, it's very resilient at the moment. Since we saw the end of that spike in September 2016, activity it's been sort of chugging along month on month. You look at the days on market and the number of properties sold and the median sale price. It's very consistent. There's fluctuation in the seasons, but that's nothing unexpected. So we've seen an average sale price increase of 1%, and an increase is always good. Is that a little bit extra money in your back pocket at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And now the average days on market 45. I wouldn't focus on this number too much.
Well, yeah, because I've exceeded that.
You've been on the market since January. But the way I sort of look at this number is it can be distorted because I look at the marketplace and we deal with 2 different categories of stock. So the first one being properties that sell in the marketplace for a lot longer because there may be like a plaster home or there may be an issue on the title.
What's wrong with plaster?
There's nothing is wrong with plaster, but what it means is the potential buyers of a home, such as a plaster home, the process for them to get proof lending from the banks is drawn out.
Why is that?
Just because the banks are really tightening up against lending towards plaster homes because of the leaky buildings, and it's just not really what they want to be putting their money into.
Oh, because my mum's got a plaster home.
She does?
Yeah.
And is she selling it? Or
she wants to.
She wants to sell it?
But maybe not anymore.
So it all comes down to the details of the plaster home. So there's sort of a spectrum of plaster homes. There's ones that banks just won't touch, and there's ones where if it's got the right stuff, they will sell. So I mean, I'd love to have a look at your mum's place, so we'll see what we can do for her.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, we've got that sort of category of stock which drives that number up. But then the other category where yours fits into is you've got high-end finishes. There's no issues. The title's fine, and they once we find the right buyer, they get snapped up a lot quicker.
So This seems strange. It's set for 7 months. Sort of thought we would have had someone who would.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can't comment.
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, because I haven't met the buyers, and I'm not sure how, and I'm in no position to sort of comment on how the High Court agents acted and how proactive they've been in sort of following up people who've come through open homes. I know you talked about you've had open homes and you've had people through an agreement offers, but I can't comment on how the High Court agents act on your behalf in terms of how persistent she's been to get that across the line. So I mean, again, if we go back to the research I did on the East Coast base, the number's down at 42, so it's down a little bit. But that's pretty consistent throughout the whole of North Shore.
That's not bad. Yeah. Still a good number.
So did you have any questions? Any sort of things risen up so far?
So far, no.
No? All good. Cool. So it's all very well me saying that once we find the right buyer, East Coast Bay is getting snapped up in 42 days, there's an increase in 1% for the average sale price. but you're going to want to know who's the right buyer for your home and where they're going to come from. So one of the worst things vendors can do is they put the wrong agent in front of the right buyer.
Now, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, so what I mean by this is you want to have an agent who's working in your best favour. And when you list with Bailey's, we have outstanding agents, and we also have outstanding connection, not only nationally but internationally. So when we market your property, you can be guaranteed that it's going to be pushed out to all corners possible to get every last buyer who could potentially want to own your apartment.
Yeah, but that's going to cost a lot, isn't it?
It all comes down, I mean, we'll touch on the budget I've put together, and you've got to see it as an investment rather than a payment. So you're putting in, say, 1 or 2% of the sale price of your apartment, but that extra marketing, so that extra advert in the property press or that extra boost on Facebook or whatever it may be, may find that extra buyer who's willing to pay $100,000 more. So is 1% worth 6 or 7%?
In that case, yeah.
Exactly. So our buyer categories, we can sort of break them down into 4 sections. So the first one being our local buyer. So 63% of our buyers are local buyers. These people being from maybe around the corner, they've always fancied the 5x5 or CV, and they're going to sort of pounce the opportunity to get into the apartment lifestyle. Or maybe someone in the surrounding suburb, a surrounding apartment, change of circumstance means it's time for a move, whatever the case may be. Now, these 3 next categories, so the Auckland City buyer, the nationwide buyer, and the international buyer, these are quite important categories for us and for you. So these 2 categories, they actually pay a 4 to 7% premium on the sale price of your property. Now, I mean, you take 4% of $1.5 million, you're looking at an extra $60,000. So what would you do with $60,000? I mean, your wife would do some great landscaping on a new pair of golf.
I wouldn't tell her. She wouldn't know there was an
Just disappear for a couple of weeks on our holiday?
Goes into my own account.
So, and the reason for this is if you take sort of the stock that's on offer, say the other side of the bridge, it can be very similar to sort of the stock that's on offer this side of the bridge. However, if you take the dollar value and apply it to the Ponsonby marketplace, say, you'll get a lot less for your money.
It's just like in Devonport, right?
Yeah.
We had a Devonport compared to their apartment. Like, we sold up for about $3 million, and we got a house just similar size, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's all about their perception of what the value of property is worth, and hence why they pay that premium. So I mean, an example of this, my colleagues actually recently sold a property in Northcote Point.
Yes.
And their buyer came from the other side of the bridge. But the interesting fact is that they were the eventual purchasers, and they paid well above the local market's expectations of the property.
That's good.
So yeah, 22% of our buyers come from the other side of the bridge. So that's why it's important to have those marketing methods in place to tap into that marketplace to get you that premium, or hopefully anyway. And then 2% of our buyers are nationwide buyers, so people from outside Auckland moving in to Auckland. And then I mentioned before we have great connections with the international marketplace, so the Asian and also the British marketplace. And as a result of this, we have 13% of our buyers come from off New Zealand shores.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's still like quite a bit of activity coming from the Chinese buyers overseas.
Yeah, there is. So, I mean, obviously, I'm not sure if you're aware we're getting a whole lot of overseas investments acts and stopping foreign buyers.
Yeah.
But there is still, I wouldn't call them cracks, but there's ways that, and people are still eligible, overseas buyers are still eligible to purchase New Zealand property. But so it is, we are still seeing a lot of offshore activity. So that's why we feel it's important to make sure we market for that marketplace as well.
Okay.
So vendor reporting, I know you sort of mentioned that Harcourts were doing something similar to this when we had a chat earlier this week.
Yeah, they go through what's going on.
Yeah, so we put together some documents and we'll have a sit down and we'll have a chat every week so you can sort of see what your property's doing and sort of how everything's going. So at a time that's convenient to you, we'll have a sit down and we'll have a chat, and I'll put together something that looks a little bit like this. And what this is going to do is it's going to cover off everything that's happened concerning your property in the week leading up to this meeting. So it's going to go through your open homes. You're going to see everyone who came through. I'm going to call them up personally, and I'm going to get any feedback. I'm going to find out where they found out about the property, and I'm going to get any price indication from that as well. So any feedback, both positive and negative, it will be in here. And I mean, you told me you're a man of transparency, and I am myself as well. I don't want to do smoke and mirrors with you. If someone comes through and said they hated it, then cool, that's their opinion.
Hated it? Why would someone hate this?
I don't know why anyone would hate it, but everyone has their own personal taste.
Jeez, I hate this.
And I mean, I love your apartment.
No taste.
I'm sure you love your apartment. I mean,
Jan sure doesn't.
So it's all about having that transparency. I don't want to get your hopes up or mislead you in terms of what the marketplace thinks you are.
I can appreciate you saying that.
And now it's also going to touch on all the marketing that's happened leading up to that. So if you missed it for any reason, it'll be included in here just so you can sort of see. And then it's also going to touch on the digital side of the marketing. So you're going to see how many likes you're getting, how many clicks you're getting, how many shares you're getting. Really interesting for you, so you can sort of see where the demographics are, what they're coming from, and it's going to give you a really detailed breakdown of sort of that digital side of the marketing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the vendor marketing report. So by the end of the campaign, you'll have 3 or 4 of these, which can be quite interesting to sort of flick through and see how it's sort of changed over the course of the campaign.
Yeah. Okay.
So on the topic of sort of paperwork, we also put together these property reports. You just have to flip through that.
Not bad,
you can just feel the quality of that, and it just shows that Bailey's carries the quality through sort of everything we do when it comes to marketing your property.
So this one's sold, is it?
Yes, yes. So
what that was for?
That sold for. I can't remember actually.
Oh.
That was the one I was talking about. My colleagues sold the North Point.
Went for a premium, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So.
But you don't know what the premium price was?
No.
Oh, okay.
So
I'll have a look online afterwards.
Yeah, well, I can find out for you and then I can get back to you.
Cool.
So these are the property reports that we put together, and they'll be available at every open home for anyone who comes through.
That's nice. Nice quality.
And it just touches base a little bit more detail on the.
It suits my apartment.
Yeah,
nice.
I mean that quality. You got those 2 awards for the workmanship, so why not carry that through into everything that people get when they come through? And the reason we go sort of above and beyond with the quality is if you've got a couple of maybe around sort of 4, 5, 6, maybe even 7 open homes that weekend, and they've been bombarded with paperwork, they're going to go for that last one on the Sunday, say. They're going to get home and they're just going to be sort of a bit overwhelmed with so much paperwork. They're going to just put it on the kitchen top or on the back seat of the car, and they're going to forget about it. However, when they come to your apartment and they'll say, "Hey, welcome, here's a property report for you," it's going to be, "Oh wow, this quality is amazing." And then on a Sunday evening, when they reflect on the weekend, they're going to be, "Oh, that beautiful apartment in 585 Offset Bay, that was one that gave us that property report that was really high quality." So it's going to stay top of mind or front of mind for a little bit longer, which is what we like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another point of difference you have when you look with Bailey's is I'm the one agent solely responsible for your property. Now, why is this so great? Well, what it means is I don't have to spend my time during the week chasing the tails of any other agents who are taking potential buyers through your home, then trying to piece together sort of how they found out about the property, what they thought about it, are they serious buyers, so they want to come back again. Because then if I'm piecing this together, I'm going to be piecing it together to put in the vendor marketing report, which then might not give you a sort of a true picture of what they really thought of your apartment.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So yeah, I'm the one contact person. We welcome other agents,
yes.
But I will go through with them at the same time. And what that means is I'm accountable for your property. I'm sure you agree, we don't want any agents sort of taking potential buyers through, and when they get asked a question, they don't know the answer, and they're going to go, "I have to ask the listing agent." Because people today are very time poor, and so they want to answer the question even before they've asked it, if that's possible.
They are time poor, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if they come through with another agent and they say, "Oh, what's the body cop?" and the agent's going to go, "Oh, I have to ask the listing agent," it's not going to set a good tone for them, and they might sort of lose interest too soon, which is not what we want. It might deter any potential buyers from coming back or making further inquiry. So one contact person means you don't have to worry about any lockboxes.
Lockbox?
Yeah, so a lockbox, not so common in apartments, but in the residential property, some agencies, they'll have a lockbox on site, say next to the letterbox, which will just be a code to open it to have the house key inside, which means any agent can just go through at any time, unlock the code, get the house key, and just walk through the property.
It's a bit of a security risk.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about that with Bailey's, and that means you don't have to worry about any surprise viewings, so you don't have to worry about anyone sort of coming through and you might be otherwise preoccupied.
Yeah.
And it has happened before. Obviously not with Bailey's, but other agencies have walked through and their vendors have been sort of...
Is that because of the lockbox?
Yeah, and we like to give you, you'll have plenty of notice as well, so you're not going to know, exactly who's coming through your property and when, so I like to give you at least 24 hours notice, so you don't have to worry about me sort of charging through your door. You might be sort of having an afternoon cap on the couch.
Cool.
Cool?
Yeah.
Any questions so far?
I just want to see obviously how much it's going to cost, the marketing and all that.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that soon.
Okay.
Yeah. So we mentioned you sold your property in Devonport.
Yes, we're very white.
Yeah. How did you sell that?
Auction.
Auction.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. And you were happy with the auction?
Well, yeah, it was good.
You sold it in 3 weeks.
We got
good result.
Good price. Yeah, I was happy.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it went really well.
So you sold that in 2015. So the auctions have sort of changed. Why we do auctions sort of in today's market compared to why we did them in say 2015.
Yes.
So in 2015, the reason we did auctions is because it created competition, and you could get lots of bidders in the room because the market was hot, and you could get you got a premium price for your property. But I'm not sure if you noticed, but there's still a lot of auctions happening in today's marketplace.
Yeah. Well, the Harcourt's guy reckoned that we did an auction with this one first time round. It got passed in and didn't get anything.
Right. And did anything come from that?
No.
No?
And then I went and watched, I was just out of curiosity, went and watched the Barfoot's one.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing selling.
Nothing selling.
Harcourt's one's nothing selling.
Right.
It's terrible, nothing selling. Anyway,
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was getting to. Is the reason we do auctions in today's marketplace is if it doesn't get an unconditional, because an auction wants to follow the hammer, it's an unconditional sale. It's above reserve. However, if the case you've seen where they got passed in, it can bring out a conditional buyer. So what I mean by this is, more often than not, there'll be buyers in the room who in fact don't want the property to sell because they themselves are not in a position to bid unconditionally. However, they still want to make a conditional offer.
Right.
So it's not uncommon for if an auction gets handed in because it doesn't reach reserve, is that there'll be a queue waiting for people to sort of make a conditional offer there and then. So the advantage of that is it sticks to there's two factors in today's marketplace to getting a successful sale. Is you've got to put a time frame on it. Because the time frame brings out these conditional buyers we were talking about that otherwise may have not come out of the cracks for sort of another month or two. But having a date set on the marketing campaign means that they sort of get their act together sooner, they're more proactive, and you can get that conditional offer if it doesn't get, if an auction is unsuccessful.
So you think we're doing auction?
Yeah, that's what I was going to get to. Is I would recommend we take a property to auction.
Okay. And you don't how are you going to go about doing that in terms of marketing that out?
In terms of how we're going to market your property to get the best result of auction. Yeah. So
people have already obviously seen it in auction before.
Right. So that's what can happen in the marketplace. I mean, you've been on the market since January, and when properties sit, because you were with auction to start with, but now you're with negotiation.
Yeah.
So that doesn't stick to that time frame factor. So people aren't going to be proactive against that. We're a bit busy this weekend, we'll do it next weekend. So by bringing the auction back, it's going to create divergency again because it sticks to that time frame approach. But if we go ahead and sort of list with Bailey's, it's going to be that fresh approach because when they see a property sale market for a long time, it can sort of it gets stale. It just sits and people sort of lose interest. They're sort of, oh yeah, I've seen that, whatever. But we'll go through, we'll do some fresh photos, we'll do a brand new marketing, get straight to the top of the feeds. So people might not actually realise that it's the same apartment they saw in February. They'll get like I said, new photos, and it'll bring that fresh approach.
Okay, what's wrong with the other photos now?
There's nothing wrong with the photos, but the people who may have been looking for an apartment, they've seen the photos on Trader and the property press, and they've gone, oh yeah, we've seen that, we've done it, nothing happened. But if we can maybe get an angle that the Harcourt's photographer didn't capture, they'll go, oh, that's nice. They'll go, oh, maybe we'll go view it again.
Okay.
Because buyers in today's marketplace, they think, they buy logically than emotionally. So what I mean by this is, if we do a little diagram down here, we've got our logical buyers here, and then here we've got our emotional buyers. So the logical buyers are the ones who will see a property, and they'll be, okay, it's in budget, or it's got the land area we want, or it's got the number of bedrooms, or it's in the right location. We'll go along and view it and see what happens.
Yes.
And then as the campaign progresses, and they come back and view it again, or they keep looking at the advert, or I keep in contact with them and they make more inquiries, they're going to get that emotional connection with the property. And they go, oh, I really like that apartment on Beach Road in Ross Bay. So if we can maximise the logical buyers at the start of the campaign, we're going to have a greater pool of emotional buyers at the end of the campaign. So say come auction day, there'll be more potential bidders in the room willing to put up that hand to bid.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Fantastic. So, like I mentioned before, having those 4 sort of categories that we like, where our buyers come from, we have strong
4 categories.
So the local buyer, the city buyer,
the
national buyer, and international buyer.
Sorry, we've just been talking about so much, so yeah.
It is a lot to take on board, but like I said, I'll leave you with a hard copy.
Cool.
So if anything's unclear, you can go back and have a read. So it's all about having, again, like I said, that big sort of broad spectrum to get those logical buyers. So we have a strong digital and a strong print media marketing campaign. So digital marketing, we advertise on Stuff and New Zealand Herald, and I mean those 2 platforms alone have over 2.5 million pairs of eyes surfing the web every week. So I mean, if we go,
I'm pretty sure I did the interior with Harcourts.
Yeah. So Bailey's has an exclusive carousel with Stuff and New Zealand Herald. So this is, other agencies will advertise on these websites, but what we've got is we've got the homepage. So this is the Stuff homepage, and you'll scroll down there, and there's the Bailey's carousel. So your property will be on here, flipping through, and if people tap on that, it'll take them through to the Bailey's website, where it will have more listing details.
It's quite cool, eh?
Yeah. So I mean, the Green Hut, that's it.
That's a nice
awesome
home.
home. 6 Traffic Road.
My friend's house there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful home. And then go on to the New Zealand Herald again. Same again, front page. Scrolling down. Where's it at? That is Mississippi.
I think we went past it. Oh, that was Barfoot and Thompson there.
Yes, so the Bailey's ads.
I thought you said it was exclusive.
Yeah, so once it loads.
What's the point of it being all the way down there?
Technology always doesn't work when you want it to. There. She got Bailey's big banner
on the
across the middle.
homepage,
Yeah. So again, flicking through. So
nice
that's 6 Traffic Road in Green Hut. So again, if you click on that,
it goes through.
And you can see more details about it. You've got the listing agents, a little about the Shed and Dixon guy.
Yes.
So he's definitely changing the game. So that's why we advertise on those, because that sort of taps into that passive marketplace, the passive buyer.
Yes.
So that obviously they're not going to look, and they're going, I want to look for a property, I'm going to go to Suffolk.nz.
Yeah, exactly.
But they'll be surfing the web and they go, oh, that property, like you saw that Traffic Road one. You'll see it and they go, oh, that's cool, they'll click it.
It just pops up.
And it just pops up, and it sort of could have stimulates the back of mind when they might be thinking about doing it, but they're not sort of actively looking. And then, as you'd expect, we'd advertise on Bailey's and Real Estate and Trade Me, the normal stuff, and those 2 platforms as well have a reach of over 1 million people every week. And then I mentioned before about having those 13% of our international buyers.
Yes.
So we have the digital platforms in place to do so. So we advertise on rightmove.co.uk, over 100,000 searches a month for properties in New Zealand. And then GY and How Garden are our Asian platforms, which also have over 1.5 million pairs of eyes looking at them every week. So you can see there, just in those platforms alone, that you've got massive reach and all relatively easy for us to sort of just how easy we can sort of pass your property about all over the place.
Okay.
So any questions from that side of the digital marketing?
That makes sense. I just want to know how much it's going to cost.
Well, did you feel more comfortable if we touch the budget?
No, we'll get there.
We'll get there?
Yeah,
okay, cool.
But so you showed me so much we're doing, so I'm just worried it's going to be a big bill.
Yeah, so we'll break it down, and you'll see once we get to the campaign. And I'll tell you now, we've actually got a special running, so you're going to get quite a nice discount with your marketing as well. So it's going to take a nice chunk out of it. So we just covered the digital. Now we've got to touch on the print.
But print doesn't really work anyway, does it? It's an old.
Why don't you think print works?
What do you mean? Well, who picks up print anymore? You know.
So when
I throw out every flyer in my letterbox, I throw out.
Right. So when you bought your apartment off the plans, how did you come across that?
Trade Me.
Right. So when you were searching for that, you would have been very specific with your search, right?
Apartments on the North Shore.
Right.
Yeah.
So
quite open.
Again, so that's the North Shore. That's that local marketplace I was talking about.
Yeah.
So that property I was talking about in Northcote Point.
Yes.
So the buyer came from the south of the bridge, paid the premium, saw the property in the Herald Homes. So he wasn't looking on the North Shore. The passive marketplace saw the advert and thought, oh, that's a beautiful home. Realised how convenient Northcote Point was actually to being the bridge wasn't a massive sort of giveaway, and he bought the home. And they still have great power behind it. Again, sort of finding you want to sort of get every market sort of place possible. So they still have a lot of power. And I mean, like I said, it's a lot more broad. So with your trade research, you did apartments North Shore.
Yes.
Did you just look at apartments just at North Shore?
Yes.
Still quite
Between
big geographical area.
1 to 1.5.
Right. So you've still got a big geographical area, but you've narrowed it down to apartments within a price range.
Yes.
However, if you're sitting at a breakfast table on a Sunday morning, flipping through the property press or the Herald Homes, and you're going to be, oh, that apartment's nice. Oh, it's in the city. Or even if you're looking at residential, people might not be thinking of apartments, but they'll see your apartment. But if they didn't search apartments on TradeMe, they're not going to see it. Makes sense? Yeah. So it broadens your search and taps into, again, that marketplace that we don't want to miss out on. So with Bailey's, we've got our preview magazine. So we've got the cover printed in English and in Chinese. So again, tapping into that international marketplace. And I mean, this is plastered everywhere. You'll see it in coral lounges, the Asian copies in the big Asian supermarkets. And we also run what we call a Magic 50.
Yes.
So the Magic 50 is when a property is listed with Bailey's, we distribute 50 preview magazines to, in your case, the apartments surrounding it or the homes surrounding the property that's been listed.
Yes.
Now the reason we do this is people are very house proud, they're very street proud. People like to say, I live in an award-winning apartment complex. And if they see that an apartment just around upstairs or just downstairs is coming up for sale, they might have friends who are thinking of moving house. And they're going to rave to their friends, say, hey, look, the apartment's just come up for sale downstairs. It's in the same building as us. You know how great it is. And you've got the beach down the road, there's the cafes around the corner. And they're going to just rave about how great Ross Bay is.
Absolutely.
And it's going to tap into that local marketplace, and if they're going to do our job for us, they're going to do nothing but high praise. And that's going to get a source of inquiry, and it gets people talking. So that's why we do the Magic 50. And this also, the preview magazine, goes back to that digital marketing I was talking about. So we actually have this generated into an ebook. So this is the preview magazine here, and this gets collated into the ebook and sent out to 115,000 strong database nationwide and internationally as well.
That's good.
Yeah. So you
must be one bar in there for my house.
Yeah, well, that's what we'd hope so. You'd hope so, right?
Well, it should be. It's the odds, you know.
Yeah. So again, and that's stepping into that international buyer. So flip through that, see the apartment, and hopefully pay the premium. You know. So that's why everything we do has a purpose in terms of the marketing. We don't do unnecessary marketing. We do it because we believe it has a reason and it's there for a purpose.
Right.
So that's the preview magazine. And then we talked about before the New Zealand Herald. So that has over 147,000 readers every week. And now Bailey's has a great connection with the New Zealand Herald. Do you read the Herald Homes yourself?
No, I don't. No.
So this property is advertised by Bailey's on the cover. So they've got this property, and in fact, all of that.
That would have cost a fortune.
Well, I can tell you that's over $10,000 with the advertising.
Woo!
But the price the price they paid for that was nothing.
Why is that?
Because, well, I say nothing. You have to advertise in the New Zealand Herald to be eligible for an editorial. And they got this upgrade absolutely free. And that's incredible, right?
Yeah.
And you can be guaranteed I'll be doing my utmost to should be advertising the Herald to get your property an upgrade to an editorial as huge as this.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So it's all about the connection.
Well, like award-winning building.
Yeah.
2 years running.
Exactly.
Hey. Pretty good. Yeah.
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 So that's the Herald Homes, 147,000 people every week. And then, of course, we've got the property press, so 56,500 people every week coming to view this. And you can just see the adverts in here. I'm sure you've probably read one yourself. You can just see the power a full page has through to the half pages.
Do you think the half pages aren't any good?
No, half pages are still amazing. So we go through the half pages. Even down to the quarter pages. We got some more again as well. But I mean, you can just see, if you compare that to say that, or even something like that, that just has so much power. Again, like you were saying, award-winning apartment.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to catch the eyes of the readers.
That's nice though, actually. Is that sold now?
Yes, that one is sold, I believe.
What that one sell for?
I'm not sure, actually.
Nice. Okay.
This is an older printing press. Yeah, so it's a couple of weeks old.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So that's the North Shore Property Press. Over 56,500 copies are distributed every week. So again, that just shows the power it still has. It still has a great reach, and there's still opportunity to again tap into its buyers that we don't want to miss out on. So that covers the marketing. Did you have any questions concerning the?
Yeah, what's the cost of that?
What's the cost of it? Cool. So the calendar. We can come back to the calendar. So this is the marketing investment I've got for you, and we've got a bread elements promotion money at the moment. So what you would be paying is $6.5, and you've got it down to $5.7.
$5,700. Wow.
So these prices, they're all third-party prices. We don't make any money off this advertising. So everything's there for a reason. We talked about before, the local buyer, the city buyer, the nationwide buyer, and the international buyer. Everything is there, and you can see what it taps into. So you've got the Bailey Centre listing covers all four. You've got the sort of open homes is obviously close to the market. You've got sort of New Zealand Herald and stuff. So in fact, 25% of the traffic that comes across New Zealand Herald and stuff is offshore traffic. So that's why it applies to all four categories. So everything's there for a reason.
No video?
There will be a video on there as well.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So how much is that?
The video will be $300.
Right. So it's actually 6,000.
Yes.
Yeah. So are you guys happy to, I mean like for that, like you guys would pay that?
No, so what we normally do is we do a, you pay for the marketing up front.
But what if I don't want to do that and like ask if you guys can pay it up front?
Well, we can always talk about that. We can cover it and then we take it. We can do, if you pay up front, then we can do an off the commission. So we'll reimburse it at the sale of your apartment. So
I get a refund?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
I can't guarantee you that, but it is an option that we can discuss if you would like to sort of investigate that further.
Okay.
But it's like I mentioned before, it's an investment, it's not a payment. So you're paying $6,000, which is what, 1% of the price of your home. But if that extra New Zealand stuff advert or the extra sort of offshore advert is going to find that the city buyer or the nationwide buyer who's going to pay $60,000 more, I mean, are you willing to risk $6,000 for potentially $60,000?
Maybe not.
So I can understand that you can, if you don't have the right approach, it can be a bit daunting, but you've just got to see it as an investment. If you can trust the process that all of this relates to potentially get you the premium, I mean, $6,000 against $60,000, you're going to be laughing at the end of the campaign.
Well, then that pays your bill. And then
Sorry?
And then I pay your bill and I'll be like,
right, so we'll touch on this now. So the Bailey's Standard Commission, we run a $500 admin fee, 4% on the first $500,000 and 2.5% on the remainder.
Yes. That's more expensive than Harcourt's.
Right.
So you'll match them?
So let me ask you this. If my fees were exactly the same as Harcourt's, after everything I've told you today, who would you choose?
Exact same?
If my fees were the exact same as Harcourt's,
well, given what Harcourt's has done, I mean, you're going to go with.
Right. So you're more impressed with what I've presented to you today than what Harcourt's has given you?
Yeah.
So wouldn't you expect there to be a premium behind the fees if you're getting a better service? Wouldn't you expect to pay that a little bit more?
No.
You wouldn't? Why not?
Well, because they're going to do it for that, and then, you know.
Right. But you're paying these guys, what percentage, what have they promised you a commission rate?
I think I'm doing 2.5% fixed.
Fixed. Right. And they promised you that, and the service you've got is you've been on the market for 7 months.
Yes.
Right. So I'm promising you a little bit more, but...
What are you promising me? A sale?
I'm not promising you a sale, I'm promising you a process to get you and you've seen the reach we have and the premiums we can potentially get.
Right.
But you've got to remember also, I don't get paid until I sell your apartment. So if I can't find the buyer, and I can't get that bit at auction with a price you're happy with, we can walk away and you've still got the money in your bank.
$6,000 less.
Yeah.
So you won't make any movement on your commission?
I can negotiate my commission. I'm more than happy at the end of the campaign if you feel like you've been given an injustice. I'm more than happy to chat. But if I can't negotiate my fees with you, how do you start to negotiate buyers' offers on your apartment?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So I'm more than happy to discuss fees at a later date. But those are the bailiff's fees, and you've got to remember that you're paying for the service you get, and in fact you don't have to pay the agency fees until we can sell your home at a price you're happy with.
Cool.
So did you have any questions?
No, I think we covered like a lot of stuff, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
you covered everything. And there's a few things in there, like looking at their marketing, the budget and everything.
Right.
They only spent about, I think, because Harcourt's was about $3,000 they did or something like that. It wasn't a very big campaign.
Right.
And obviously there's not been much been going on for a little while.
So you can see the reason behind it. And I mean, the reason for that the vendor marketing report is that we'll have a sit down and we have that chat. And if we see that, hey, no one's coming through because of the progress, or no one's coming through because of the trading for any bizarre reason, then we can cut it. We can change the marketing campaign and we can make adjustments to sort of tailor fit your apartment and campaign and what the sort of market and how they're reacting to it.
And to be honest with you, I'm obviously sitting here 7 months and not a sale, and
Right.
I do, quite keen on trying something new. So yeah, I mean, what I'll do, I'll just have to obviously just run this all past Jan, because she's kind of happy me to run this.
Right, so it's a shame you couldn't make it this morning.
She doesn't understand the stuff anyway. She just asked me to just meet with you, and I'll explain to her, but I'll run past her what I'm thinking and see what she says. But,
Cool.
I think you cut off pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about.
Right. So if you don't mind me asking, when are you going to sort of have a chat with Jan? The only reason I asked is I've sort of phoned the photographer and I've got him penciled in for later this week, and he needs an answer tonight. I'm more than happy to come back later on this afternoon if you want to go away and have a chat with Jan.
Well, Jan finishes work at 2.
Right.
So I'll see her about 2:30 for a coffee, and then we'll have a chat.
Right. So do you want to come later this afternoon?
Well, what I'll do is I'll give you a call.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Once I've had a
If I
chat.
don't hear from you, I'll give you a ring if I don't hear from you. How's that sound?
Yeah, if you need to.
Cool.
If not, I'll give you a call.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
That's all good.
Awesome.
All right, I appreciate you coming out here, Owen.
No problem. Appreciate
And for your time and for preparing all this documentation and doing the research on my property. But yeah, I'll have to just obviously talk with her, double check a few things, and then any more questions will come back to you.
Fantastic.
Cool.